This has had to be heart-wrenching for them. And, Jerry's an unbelievable professional. We make fun with Jerry all the time, and we have a good day. We always have good days here. We never have a bad day. And one of the reasons for that is because everybody's committed to the show. Everybody's professional. And Jerry's here today. I didn't know if he was going to show up or not today, but he's here today. And This is where he should be. He should be with us, and we should commiserate with him, and we will through the morning. But just a sad, sad story out of Rutgers. And I don't know how he did it, but he and Carlin did it. They did both games. I didn't even realize what had happened. I had just heard them on the radio. I was like, wow, what, you don't know what's going on. And then, of course, you find out the story. And then you realize that those two guys had heavy hearts while they did those games. So I give Chris and Jerry a lot of credit for being the professionals they are. And for Jerry to come here this morning and work. And I know we'll ask him questions, and I know it's not going to be easy for him.
Yeah, and I didn't know, of course, what was happening at the time. I saw a couple tweets from Jerry saying that him and Chris Carlin had the call of the game, and I wasn't sure, and I was hoping everything was okay. And then, of course, this morning, very early this morning, I got a text from Al saying that Joe Boylan had passed away, and he's just one of those guys that impacted so many lives over the course of his 80-plus years, and there isn't anybody out there that's got a bad word to say about him. As Jerry said in the story on NJ.com, one of the nicest men he's ever met. I saw Geo Baker tweet out after the loss last night to Houston that he really wishes that Coach Boylan was still around because he'd have the right advice for him after such a tough loss, and he'd be the guy you want to talk to. Yeah. So he had a huge impact on the current team. I mean,
he did. And Coach Peichel has had, obviously, a huge impact for Rutgers. And, man, that was just heartbreaking last night. As heartbreaking as that was for all the Cuse fans that live in the tri-state area, Buddy Buckets was lighting it up yesterday, and especially in the second half. I think Wally called it at halftime that, don't worry, he's going to get his points eventually.
Yeah.
And eventually he did. And I'll tell you what, that was an exciting game. I would say for the most part, March Madness has lived up to its billing. And with Oral Roberts and Abilene Christian and obviously these games going down to the wire with last-second shots and everything else, it's been incredibly entertaining.
Yeah, it has been. Of course, having a 15 seed in there with Oral Roberts is very cool. You got your Maryland Terps playing late tonight, so we'll see if they keep the run. Good thing that I didn't put any money on this particular bracket that I have here, because if you take a look at my Sweet 16, really bad. Rutgers, West Virginia, OK State, and Illinois, all in the Midwest.
All gone.
They're all gone.
Right.
Florida, gone. I mean, it is just, it's rough. It's a rough look.
Baylor's got a good team, though.
They're the one seed, though, so that really wasn't a big deal. That wasn't a great pick by me.
Right. I mean, so.
And one of my championship team that I took, Oklahoma State, gone. They didn't even make it to the Sweet 16. So this is why the brackets, it's for the birds.
It's just, could you imagine, though, if you are Loyola and you beat Illinois? Illinois is the number one seed. And, you're obviously same state and everything else, same geographical area, same, recruiting pool, all of that other stuff. That had to be like an incredible win. And then for Abilene Christian to take down Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, so this is why we love the tournament, because I don't care about Texas, and I certainly don't care about Illinois.
Sure.
I want them to lose. And when they do lose, and they lose to teams that you've never heard of before, well, of course we've heard of them, but you never see them.
That's great.
This is what makes the tournament so interesting.
Yeah, exactly. But you need to have one of those teams, though, really make a run. Like, was it Georgia Mason had made it to the Final Four? You need to get one of those teams in the Final Four, like a 15 or an 11 or a 12.
Used to be a team like that.
Yeah, I know, but they're not anymore. Obviously, number one overall seed.
Is unbelievable. He just gets all the guys, and they all end up staying 4 or 5 years, and he's got good teams.
Sure.
Year in and year out.
All right. I'm going to give you am I a bad guy question, all right?
Okay, yes.
Am I a bad guy that I'm not as into Sister Jean this time around? The last time was like her run, and it was great, and we were welcomed into her world. This year, I'm not as into it. Not that I don't wish her well. It's a great story. She's a 101-year-old nun. She picks the games. It's a great story. But I feel like we've been here before. I'm like, we've been here before with Sister Jean.
Time out.
I'm into Oral Roberts this year.
No. You are a bad guy. You know why?
Why?
You're getting like Sean Marash.
No. He called her a fraud, though.
He called her a fraud
That's
last year.
different. I'm not calling her a fraud.
No, don't
She's
go
not
down,
a fraud.
Do not go down that road.
She's not a fraud. I'm not getting on her.
You cannot.
You got to listen to me. I'm not getting on her. I'm just saying I'm not getting.
You just brought her up.
I know I brought her up, but I'm not getting on her. I'm just saying I'm not as into the story. They're not the Cinderella this year. They're not.
Yes, they are.
A couple years ago, there was Oral Roberts is this year. That's them.
What about Abilene Christian?
So them too. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but so there's 3 Cinderellas.
I'm just not as into it this year.
I'll tell you, the Big Ten.
She had her moment in the sun.
Big Ten got a little slap in the face.
I know.
I think they had 8 or 9 in, and they only have 3 left.
Yeah, pretty bad. And, of course, Illinois going down was the biggest one.
Ohio State?
Ohio State as well. Yeah, but Illinois was a 1. Ohio State was a 2, right?
Yeah, Purdue was a 4.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, and a 4. 1, 2, and a 4. Yeah. Boom. Goodbye.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Just goes to show you this year is hard to predict this. It always is. But, when you have teams that highly seeded going out, man, this is what makes these tournaments so great. I don't care what anybody says. This is like one of the best things. And I'm so glad that they were able to get it going this year and doing it the way they're doing it. And at least these kids get a chance to experience what, unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to experience last year.
Yeah, and you had one COVID situation with VCU, but they just dealt with it, said, all right, moving on,
but I'll tell you,
get them out of there.
The other team that got hurt by the COVID situation was Virginia.
Yeah.
And how, they were allowed into the tournament, but they had to go through so many different special situations and protocols in order to be able to play, and their play reflected it.
Sure, as they lose to Ohio, the Bobcats.
Right.
Moving on.
There's another Cinderella for you.
Yeah, there is, and that's where Gina went. That's where my wife went. She's a Bobcat, an Ohio University Bobcat.
Oh, who knew? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she went there, and she had a very good time there.
Okay, so Kenny Golladay to the Giants.
Oh, I love it. Remember I was telling you that I wanted this to happen desperately because I'm just so sick of seeing bad offense here in New York with these two teams. So I love this signing. I know that there's injury questions there. I know it's a significant amount of money, but I absolutely, on the surface, love this. I mean, this guy immediately is one of the best playmakers in town with the Jets and Giants, if not the best playmaker in town.
He's got to be, hopefully what he'll be to Daniel Jones is what Steph Diggs was to Josh Allen. A guy that he can count on. Look, he's already got a little bit of a thing with Darius Slayton. So to me, with what's his name coming back,
Saquon Barkley
coming back, and now adding him, Kenny Golladay, to this mix, you now have 2 significant players that you didn't have last year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're already better just by the fact that these 2 guys are going to be part of the mix. They'll also be better because Daniel Jones will be in the second year of Jason Garrett's offense. So he should be able to understand a little bit better about the little nuances of it, and he should feel more comfortable coming back to training camp this year. So this is great, man. This is what you want. You want the team to spend money so the young quarterback doesn't have to do all the heavy lifting and just take a shot at a guy that's 6'4", over the middle, down the sideline, speed guy that has great ups, long arms, everything that a scout loves about a wide receiver. Kenny Golladay brings to the New York Giants, with the one question mark, and that is the injury, to the hip, and how is that going to play itself out, and is he going to be able to stay on the field for the Giants? So hopefully he does.
Yeah, I mean, and this is someone that I'm sure that every possible question that the Giants needed to have answered positively before you give him a $70 million contract with $40 million guaranteed was answered when it came to the hip. So, Dave Gettleman's not going to, just gloss over these things. You're not going to have Joe Judge, especially as detail-oriented as he is, sign off on a signing like this if he thinks that Kenny Galladay's hip is going to keep him out for 10 games next year. I mean, you never know, but I'm sure that they were pretty comfortable with that. So, yeah, I mean, it was a slow start. Like, that first day was a slow start to free agency locally. But now you look at the players that have been accumulated here with these 2 teams, and this is a haul.
And the Jets added Sheldon Rankins to their defensive line.
It's another guy, injury stuff, but, a high pedigree, 12th overall, selected a couple years ago by New Orleans. I know he's had an Achilles tear in his past, and he had like a preventative, I guess is the word I'm looking for, Achilles procedure done on the other one because he has some disease that puts pressure on his Achilles tendons, but he says it's okay. But that's one of those, risk-reward type of things. There is some risk there, but if he stays healthy, it's a very high reward.
Yeah, I think that both local teams did fine. I don't know what else to tell you. They didn't do what the New England Patriots did. They didn't go all in and spend $250 million in guaranteed contracts,
right?
And signing bonuses and all that other stuff. But what they did do is they found the select few guys. I like the Tyler Kroft signing for the Jets too. I like the Kyle Rudolph signing for the Giants. Solid players. They're not gonna catch 110 passes, but if they can catch 40 to 50 passes and get you key first downs with big bodies in the middle of the field, then this is exactly why you're signing them. You're signing Kenny Golladay because you want explosive plays. You want big plays. You want a big target, and you want somebody that your quarterback knows that he can count on to make plays for you. So I'm telling you, the Giants offensively look like, was Saquon Barkley coming back?
We've been saying this for years with them, though.
Yeah, I feel
we really have. Even with Eli Manning, we've been talking about the weapons around Eli Manning when Odell was here and
there's one
Evan
aspect
Ingram.
That Daniel has that Eli doesn't have.
He can move. He's mobile.
He can move. That's right. So you throw that into the mix. I don't know, man. This should be the year that Daniel Jones turns the corner.
Well, that's the plan. Year 3,
the most
best weapons he's had around him. I mean, this is it. So if he doesn't do it here, then we're talking about Daniel Jones the way we're talking about Sam Darnold this year, next year.
I'd much rather be talking about Daniel Jones like they're talking about Josh Allen up in Buffalo.
Sure.
Because when Josh Allen came out of his second season, people were really still questioning whether or not he was really the guy to lead the team.
Yeah, but
they made the trade for
They
Steph
went to the
Diggs.
playoffs, though.
Yeah, I know, but still, he was not great. I mean, he was not great, but he was better than his year before.
Sure.
And there's a growth pattern that happens, and then all of a sudden they take a little step back, and then it's 16 games as a starting quarterback in the NFL is enormous, is stressful. It's anxiety ridden. There's a lot of pressure, and not everybody is ready for it right out of the gate, especially if you're not on a good team. Now, Buffalo was a good team, and they had enough good players, especially on defense, to be able to support their maniac quarterback that was running all over the place.
Yeah.
What you saw last year was a guy who refined his game over the offseason, and that's what Daniel Jones has got to do. He's got to refine his game. They got to give him weapons. He's going to have Saquon and Kenny Golladay now. They added Kyle Rudolph. There's no really excuses anymore. I mean, now this is the year that he should be able to take the next step. So either you're talking about him like they're talking about Josh Allen, or we're talking about him the way that Mitch Trubisky fell off a cliff in Chicago, and the way that they're talking about Sam Darnold right now with the Jets.
Sure. I think the big problem with Daniel Jones that people have is you felt like he gave you more flashes in his rookie season than he gave you last year. Now, some people will point to the conservative nature of the Jason Garrett offense. They'll point to the fact that Saquon wasn't there for most of the year. I mean, as a rookie, he gave you some moments where you said, wow, I mean, this guy was tremendous. You didn't get as many of those moments last year. So, yeah, I mean, this is make or break. I mean, this is the that everybody who plays that position hopes that they have.
100%.
Is give me these 3 years, put some guys around me, have some faith in me. I've got a similar system now for back-to-back year. Anybody who gets drafted hopes that the team believes in them for at least a season like this to be able to define your career, because that's what this is.
Lamar Jackson did it in his second season, and then you could say that he took a little step back in his third season. But I think, unquestioned, the leader of the Baltimore Ravens.
Sure.
Baker Mayfield had 2 really rough first seasons. A lot of us looked at it as coaching, as the ineptitude of that organization and everything else. They finally get the right coach in there. He's finally preaching the right stuff. They got a great running game. They got a big offensive line. Of course, they got playmakers, and they were even better without Odell Beckham Jr. Honestly, he was better. Now, I don't know why. I don't know what that's all about, but I do believe that the coach had a profound impact on him. And now all of a sudden you see, okay, we can win with him. He's a guy that is, it's now finally figured out that he can play in the NFL. And that's what you're hoping for Sam Darnold, and that's exactly what you're hoping for Daniel Jones. I don't think Sam's going to be here. I think he's going to end up being traded. I think that his third year, they saw what they saw, and Joe Douglas did not draft him. So this whole notion, we all love Sam. I'd love to see him play on a better team, and I think he would be better for it. But I just don't know if the guy who did not draft him is going to auction that second pick off and keep him. I just don't
When do
know
you
that.
think if Sam Darnold does get traded, when do you think that's going to happen?
It may happen somewhere before the draft, or it may,
Like I'm talking are we talking weeks before the draft or like a day before the draft?
It all, again, it goes down to whether or not Joe Douglas believes through all of his evaluation that he has fallen in love with one of these guys.
Yeah.
And I often think about the way the Eagles drafted Carson Wentz. And I'll never forget my buddy Frank, who went up to North Dakota to study him, talk to him, kind of interview him. And he came back, and on his way back from the airport, he called me and said, why isn't this guy thought of the way that Andrew Luck was thought of coming out of college? That's who this kid is. This kid is a great kid. He's going to be a great player. And he turned out to be a great player for the first couple of years, and then obviously fell off the cliff last year for whatever reason. And Frank believed in him so much that they made the trade for him, so they think that they're going to get him back to where he was. At least that's the hope in Indianapolis. But, the point I'm making is that Frank and the Eagles fell in love with Carson Wentz.
And that might be what's happening right now with the Jets.
That could be what's going on right now with either Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, any one of those guys.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.